We've got a special treat for you today. Coming back from the International Sign Association is our good friend Brad Turpin Jr. He's got a lot of content for you on risk-ready project management. So Brad, thank you for being here. Let's give Brad Turpin a warm welcome.
Thank you. There was a lot of talk, and I do a lot of coaching of soccer, so I almost thought I was going to have to turn my coaching voice on there for a second. My name is Brad Turpin Jr. I'll talk a little bit about myself here in a few seconds. It's probably the worst part of the presentation, but before I got started, I wanted to kind of share with you how the presentation came about, and it also shares you a little bit of glimpse into my mind, which I don't let people there a lot. All right? So we started off, I wanted to do something on risk because we're all dealing with risk on a daily basis. And I said, maybe I should call it risk ready. And then I changed my mind and said I should call it risk aware. And I was like, well, we need to be a little bit more action oriented. I don't want to be risk aware. It's nice to know. So then I just said, maybe we should just be how to be healthy paranoid. I mean, because that's what we're doing. We're going to take a sign project. We've got to be healthy paranoid. So I figured that wasn't very professional, so I went back to risk ready. All right? So we're going to talk a little bit about risk today. My name is Brad Turpin Jr., Associate Director of Content and Training at the International Sign Association. Just to tell you a little bit about what I do, all the expo sessions that are our annual show, there's 33, I think, this session. Bill Parks was one of those. 33 plus sessions, so that's what we're doing is curate those sessions that start now, for 2027. So I do that, and then all of our online learning courses that are available to you. There's 90 plus online learning courses that are available, and I'll talk a little bit about those in a minute. All right? But the best part is I've been in the sign industry for almost 25 years now. I worked at a large sign manufacturing company in Kentucky, so I always find it fascinating that they want a sign guy from Kentucky to come talk, because I think talk's funny. But I am that introvert that Bill talks about, so bear with me as we get through this. But I'll just kind of phrase it up for you too. I have 3 brothers, one of which is still the general manager at Ruggles Sign, where I was working for 20 years. And I have another brother that's a couple years younger than me, and he owns a small 2-person sign company about 20 minutes from my house. And then my third brother works for Lexmark Printers. So I'm covered up with signs. Our family reunions are extremely boring. I don't think they're boring. But all we do is we sit around and write about signs and customers all day. So that's kind of where I'm at. I should probably tell you about ISA. ISA, I've been there almost 3 years now. We provide programs that support and advocate for the sign industry, businesses of all sizes. And I say that in all types. And I say that because last week I got to go to it was our ISA RAP Summit. We do that annually. It was only our second official one. And it was in Louisville, Kentucky. So I got to walk into a shop that all they did was vehicle wraps. And it was just a totally different world for me. And we were, and I was presenting on customer expectations. And the reason I tell you that story is one of the gentlemen that was presented alongside with me was a Signworld company. It was a good sign company up in New Jersey, Sean Flanagan. And he did a great job, and it was a lot of fun delivering that. But does anybody here do vehicle wraps, and that's all they do? But we do have some that do vehicle wraps. It was a great summit. I encourage you to take a look at that. It was really cool to see all that at the factory, because again, we did a little bit of wraps, but it was nothing major like that. So that's kind of where I'm at. Here's your first question. Please answer this. There should be 100 answers on this slide. Have any of you been questioned or stopped by management or security while inspecting and taking photos of signs? And I'm going to take a group shot later on this. %, that's what I was going for. All right, 56. Okay, I'm extremely excited that the numbers are so high, but yes, I did this with another affiliate of ISA. The number wasn't that high, I'm not going to lie, but it was disappointing. All right, but so 55%, nobody said I hate signs, that's always good. There's always some wise ass that does that, so Bill may be doing that. And then 28% no. Okay. All right. So I encourage you to do that because here's what I'm going to share with you. This is my last one. I was last week up near Cincinnati, and I just saw this monument sign, and I was like, I'm just going to have to go check it out. I was really curious about how thin the strokes are on that logo, and I was like, well, that's kind of sticking up better. It's waiting for somebody to come grab it and knock it off. And so that's what I was doing. Yes, I was stopped by security, wondering what I was doing, shaking that logo just to see how it was doing. Because I looked, I wanted to see why it was getting all stained inside the acrylic, so, and then, this is no joke, and then this is about 5 in the morning because I get up pretty early. Then I get this picture from my wife, and she's, look, I got this great picture of the moon. And I'm like, nah. And it was not illuminated, so here I've done created a whole personality profile on Speedway that they didn't want to spend the money to fix that because it's about 100 feet up there. They probably need a crane, and they're probably debating whether they should pay to retrofit it to LED. I've created all of this in a matter of 2 seconds. My wife sent me this photo. And then I was like, why is that sign so high? And I-75 sitting right there. So that helped there. So now that you kind of know where I'm at and where my mind works, and yes, I've taken plenty of pictures of the signs around here, that's where we're going. So I put this QR code up here. If you scan it, something will play. So you might want to turn your volume down. And I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to show you what I usually use it for every week. All right? I hope the sound works.
Standing at the center of every American success story, there's someone like Frank. Seems to be a small business owner, but the
Had a mic.
his dedication and drive to make it a reality. An important part of that strategy is the sign that communicates to businesses what a business has looked like, and of course, that we're open for business. Randy's Donuts needs a sign. A great sign begins with a great partner. Someone who can help you find an eye-popping way to grab the public's attention. These partners are the experts at local sign and graphic shops. There, you'll explore all the options, like digital, or maybe something traditional, or even a little more modern. And if you aren't sure what zoning or local regulations will allow, the experts at the International Sign Association will help sort out the details. Behind the scenes, specialized suppliers have already developed and tested materials to ensure that the fabricators, welders, electricians, painters, and printers have everything they need to create the sign. So when the installers show up, everything goes smoothly. Signs mean business, because signs mean opportunity, not just for Randy, but for every person with a dream of owning their own business. Explore how signs turn dreams into a successful reality.
Okay. I played that for every new employee that came in. Because I wanted to lay the groundwork of here's what the sign industry is. Because I went and spoke at the Association of Teachers and college professors, and most of them tell me that they just don't know what the sign industry is and what it's a part of. So I like to lay the foundation for that. The Sign Research Foundation is the charity wing of ISA. That's actually the department I work in because they're kind of over education, but they educate planners. I'm going to go ahead and throw that out now. If any of you, we're looking for 2 or 3 more planners to attend our expo in April. We'll pay for them to go. So if you have somebody in your vicinity that is a good planner or sign friendly, or maybe the opposite, and you learn a little bit more, and would be interested in going, please find me after this, and I can help you maybe try to get that. But in 2027, think about it. If you have planners, point them our direction. We want to educate them. We're doing an activity with planners, our young sign people, and designers, where we're getting them all 3 in the room and we're just looking at projects, and talking about them. So think about planners, anybody in the building department that you may find interested around your place that would be interested in going to the expo, find me and we'll make that happen. But anyway, this video is available to you on YouTube. it's a great way to kind of say, here's what the sign industry is. I'm going to play one more. I will tell you that I did find Randy's Donuts. It's right there on the, it's actually in Inglewood, California. All right, and then the one on the right there is in the new Hilton Resort World in Las Vegas. And I will tell you that one. That was the one where I rode in the cars with no drivers. Highly recommend it. It was kind of fun. All right, but that's where I went because that's where the home base was for that. So I would drive back. I rode there, and I rode it actually 3 times because that's how I am. And I took the longest route they had because I wanted to get some speed up. And it got up to 55 and was just cruising. And I was sitting there and it was fine, but I still was a little bit hesitant. But I do encourage you. There's Randy's Donuts. I do have one more video. I don't think we necessarily need to hear it. But if any of you all go speak to kids or go speak to schools or they come to your place, I always play this video. You won't need to hear it necessarily. Here's the QR code I encourage you to say. So if you're going to speak and share the sign industry, play this video. It shows all of the jobs that are available to them. Right? It presents a nice, it's a professional image of the industry. Again, I played that as well when we did Sign Manufacturing Day, and you'll hear me more about Sign Manufacturing Day here in just a minute. It's my favorite day here. It still is. Right? So I hope you all got that. We'll move on and kind of get started here. So, risky, I made that today. It was Chat GPT, anything AI in here. I put the logo on so you can kind of see what I was doing. So we're going to talk about risk. And we're going to talk about risk. What is risk? Risk is any known or unknown condition that could affect the signed project, scope, schedule, cost, safety, or outcome. Even if it actually never does. Because you got to be prepared for it just in case it does. And I'll start off like I do everything. I don't know everything. All right? Never claim to. My job here is just kind of show you some things that we've talked about, show you some things that I've come across, that we've all come across, and then we share information when we come to it. I will, while I'm here, this afternoon, the second course I'm doing, we are actually going to create a resource for Signworld and ISA based on risk. We're going to go over all 20 steps or so of a sign project as a group, and we're going to fill in these blanks underneath each part of the project, listing any risk or concerns you might have. And then we'll pretty it up and send it to make sure everybody has that. So please speak up when you can. Basically what it comes down to is ask the questions. All right? Don't be scared to ask the questions. You have to ask the questions. My only thing is we got to be careful how many questions we ask at one time. Because if you come out swinging, because I can come out swinging with a page full of questions within minutes of talking to somebody. We can't do that because I've scared people away doing that. All right? So how we harness all this information. Sign Builder Illustrated just had an article, I saw it yesterday. I think they retweeted it from a few years ago. But it's the small stuff that throws us all off. That was the name of the article. So of course I read it. So I encourage you to take a look at that one. Basically what it's coming down to is we've got to start documenting our processes. And I talked to 2 Signworld members here just this morning who talked about processes. Because especially for us mature sign people, a lot of those processes are here. And a lot of the decisions that we're making early on, whether we're going to take a job or not, are here. And he doesn't know what's here. You know, so we're going to have to start documenting this. So if it's like Bill said, create an hour, I'm going to document one process. The way we did it where I was from is we had a representative from every department and they documented their process. And we brought it all together. And what we had after that, the best practices. You know? So think about how you might approach that with your team. You hear a lot of people talk about SOPs, standard operating procedures, whatever. That just brings people out. Call them best practices. Best practices, guidelines, checklists, or something like that. So ask the questions. And again, you're wanting to build a relationship with this customer. So you've got to ask those questions so they know that you care about all aspects of the project. All right? And you all hit on that already. So here's what you got. Permitting and quote. This first batch, and I'll tell you when we switch, I polled about 10 large sign companies, national sign companies. So like the Stratus types, a large group with hundreds of employees. You're going to find it very interesting that a lot of the same issues are for both sizes, but we'll get there. But slow reviews, unclear rules, zoning issues, and redesign risks. All right? So they've got this, but they don't allow EMCs. So you have to show them what that would change. Look at the difference. You know, this was a variance we were talking with the city at one point. All right? You have to show them what it would look like. All right? One of the funniest things that I like to do here is, it's always fascinating to me how over 2,000 municipalities, and I feel like there's over 2,000 different ways how to calculate square footage. I mean, it's either do I count the letters, draw a hexagon around it, and see if they all touch. I don't know what's going on, but rectangles, triangles, that's what they're asking for. You know, so it's so complicated, and we've got to show that. And again, it's frustrating for everybody. Client and landlord or property owner slow decisions. All right, a lot of, especially, I'm going to start off with a story. We started doing a lot of dispensaries there towards the end. Nothing is more exciting than trying to talk to the landlord of a dispensary. Because most of the time, it's not necessarily the corporate people that we were working for. It was just somebody who started a business in a house and had to have a safe in the basement. And it was for sale. Or it was an old bank and somebody bought it and they were like, do I really have to get my approval on this? And yeah. So it's kind of fun to think about, but late approvals, some property owners understand that we have to have this information from them. There's no debate. Unclear feedback, stalled progress, shifting plans, missed deadlines, landlord requirements, lease issues. 5 out of 10 jobs from the national accounts that I was using, I would have to go almost read the lease on every project. As the sign company. Because we're not getting that from them. And just so we understood, I shared this picture because J Deal, it's extremely small sign. It's like 14 inches is the tall of that J. Well, in this particular mall, they only allowed 12 inches. Right? And then they started talking about the descending J's on the logo. So now the landlord said it can only be 14 inches total. And I'm like, look at that sign. It looks like a postage stamp. But that's how it went up. And the customer was beside themselves. They're like, no, I'm not. Because we actually did sometimes, the customer agreed to move the J's up so we could get a bigger sign. I got a problem with that. You know, it just doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, that's a risk. You know, you get into a tough landlord. Survey and site coordination problems. Again, we're focused on large sign companies here. Maybe you may be doing the work for them. All right? Where they subcontracted out the work. Wrong measurements, missing details, power structure failures, tough installation access, and surprises on site. All of those should sound really familiar to you. All right? We are one of the few trades that deal with this every single time. We'll talk a little bit more about that. I want you all to take a look at this one because this is a good one. How many times do we have to install a sign and we have to penetrate a roof? It's a lot. All right? I'm just going to come out and tell you, you should never penetrate the roof as a sign company. You should always sub that out. Or better yet, you call the property owner and say, who do you all use for roofing? Oh, great, thanks. You use them to do your patching or whatever happens. This was a Brooks Brothers. I know they went out of business, but they were a great customer because Brooks Brothers is a lot of letters. All right? And one of our main customers was Bath and Body Works. We really love them. All right, but Brooks Brothers here, kind of a high-end customer, but we did have to penetrate this roof membrane from the bottom to get power. And I called the customer and I said, who's the roofer? All right, and we worked it out, but guess who was driving that? It was me. And I was training the new project manager at the same time, so I was so glad this was happening. You know? And I said, what's going to happen? You'll do all this, and there's going to be a leak. And you're going to get called because it's the sign. It's actually not, but it's the power for the sign. Sure enough. All this happened. It looks good, actually. They did a great job. And literally while the new person was sitting next to me, the general contractor calls. Said, the power is leaking. I said, really? I said, great. Here's the roofer's name, number, and if you check with the Brooks Brothers project manager, they'll take care of it. And I was out. You know? But you have to handle that all on the front end. So how are you going to get your new employees to understand that? They're not just going to know that. They're going to think we'll just patch up the hole and move on. Don't get in that mess. All right? So that's another risk, is dealing with other things like that. Material shipping and production issues. Some of you all don't do the manufacturing in-house. This is probably a big deal for you all on top of that. We didn't make everything either. We outsourced a few things. So how do you all make that decision? If you all do manufacturing in-house, how do you make a decision what you outsource and what you don't? So long lead times, damaged shipments, specialty items, paint finish displays, and then factory capacity. Again, I told you my brother's the general manager at Rose, and every time I would go to ask for a project, or we would go ask, all right? Whenever I got this answer, I knew that we were busy and things were going to take a while. I'd go, we're checking on this. He'd go, paint's got to dry, bud. I'd be like, that means we're slammed, we're busy, and we'll get it. All right? So, but I put this picture up here because I wanted to talk about the depth of your cabinet. The one on the left is about a 5-inch deep cabinet. I want you to look at how close those LEDs are together. And it has one power supply. Alright? This one right here, about 2 inches deep, because that's what the customer wanted. Alright? And it had an additional logo at the top, so it kind of changed things a little bit. Alright? But the customer's not going to know unless you show them that, yeah, we can do that thin, but your price of your LEDs probably just doubled or tripled. Just because you changed the depth of that. And when you show them that and say, here's why, they understand the pricing, and they may say, go for it, or they might say, yeah, you're right, I'm not going to, one's 5 inches, one's 3 inches, I'm not going to make a financial decision for that. You know? So you're trying to educate them as you go along. All right? Without overwhelming them, because that's my area of opportunity, because I could overwhelm them pretty quick. All right? But think about just, and I want you to look at how close those LEDs are on that right one as well, because you don't want any hot spots. You know? Share that information with the customer, and I'll show you some other stuff to share with them as well. Installation day challenges. I put this one up here because we got a call that the blade sign is crooked. Guess what? The blade sign is not crooked. It's the wall that's crooked. And we took a picture with that level to show them that. And they said, we can shim this up so it's level. Is that what you want us to do? And they said, yes. We shimmed it. It didn't look great. We did the best we could. And we left it. All right? So you just kind of have to have an open mind about what is actually going wrong here. You know? Unclear instructions, site not ready. Does anybody drive by the site the day before it installed to make sure the wall is actually ready? Alright? Definitely. If you're working and subbing it out, general contractors don't like it. They're like, can you take a picture of that wall and send it to me? Because I don't want to pay somebody to go out and the wall's not ready. You know? And then you get there and they're paving the parking lot that day and they didn't tell you that. And that gets into a whole other mess. Alright? But weather and then other trades. You know, back in the day we was installing neon in malls. And we were using PK housings. I don't know if you're familiar with neon, but it's kind of a pain to use PK housings. The holes are this big and they stick out this far. Well, in malls, guess what's right behind there? The roll-up gate. You want to get a roll-up gate caught in PK housing? You do not. Alright, but we had to work with those guys on a daily basis to make sure that the plans were actually right. You know? But who drove that? It was me. Or it was us. As the sign company, coordinating with the roll-up room. So you have to be really proactive with all this stuff. Now this part right here, you might think, personalities are a risk. Well, Bill gave a course at Expo last year on the nuisance customers. Alright? And I thought that was interesting. So he's going to talk a little bit about these people that we've got here. Alright, give it to him.
As if you guys haven't heard enough from me. Brad and I are basically twins. So,
Yeah, when I'm standing here, we're twins.
there's a picture. All right, so where did my personalities go?
Oh, they left.
They left. Has anybody taken a personality test, like a DISC profile, Myers-Briggs, something like that? I consider things like that to be advanced sales skills. Being able to read someone and knowing who you need to be to communicate and also to be heard. Capturing someone quickly and saying, this is this type of person. There might be a bully, there might be a dominant, D. I, influencer, you're looking at one. You're probably looking at two. S, steadiness. C, conscientious. Where's your time to understand so that you can meet someone, listen for clues, and then adapt your communication so that your message gets across. But also, you have to understand where they're coming from, and that's based on their personalities. This is worth studying because we don't have time, so we have to figure somebody out really quickly and say, okay, here's how I get my point across, or this is not my customer. That's fine too. The dominants, the bullies, they're tough to work with. They're not impossible, but they're tough to work with. You might decide, not my type, but you also might decide, you know what? If somebody punches me in the nose, they're a high D, I'm going to punch back, and therefore we're going to get along, which is fun.
Look at these names up here. The whole time I looked at the names when we first did this, I was picturing the people I used to work with at Ruggles. I'm like, yep, that's him, that's him, that's him. What's very interesting, Mateus, I'm going to have you share that one about the price checker guy that you had a gut feeling about if you don't care. But in the meantime, I wanted to share something too. We had this one corporate customer that was just belligerent to our project managers and people. This was almost close. It was about $1.5 million customer. We talked to him. We talked to him as much as we could. We talked to other people that we knew at the place. It was awful. Guess what we had to do? We had to let him go. That's a big deal when you let a customer go that's giving you that much money on many levels. That guy lost his job a couple months later and then came back. So I just encourage you to stay the course, do the right thing. Those people are going to happen. Always in a rush. I feel like I'm that guy sometimes. All right. But the price checker negotiate the slow payer. I love that picture. But the price checker, Mateus told me a story earlier. Do you mind to share that one? Yeah.
Sure. So recently I redefined my ICP to be someone who is either has multiple locations or wants multiple signs. And so I got a call in November of last year. They're opening a new franchise, and he said all the right things. Multiple signs, gonna open multiple locations. Like, great. What are you looking for? These are the signs that I want. How are you gonna decide who you work with? Price. What else are you looking for in your decision? Price. Okay. So I told them I'm not going to be the lowest cost provider. I'm not going to be the most expensive, but I'm not the lowest. It's like, all right, sounds good. Came back about 3 weeks later and said, hey, can you quote this for me? What do you want me to quote? Well, can you just mock up something so I can send it to the landlord? It's like, sure, pay me $250. Well, I found someone else who will do it for free. I'll come back to you with mock-ups and then you can quote that. So I left it at that, didn't think he'd come back. On the way here, he sent me an email with mock-ups, with sizing, with everything from another sign company. So I said, I have to go on site, do a site survey in order for me to guarantee what we're gonna produce for you. It's gonna be $550 for that site survey. Let me know when you want me to do it, and I'll send you an invoice. His response was, as expected, I got these things for free, and these are the measurements. If you can't quote off of that, you're walking away from business. And I was A-okay with that because obviously a price shopper, and two, probably a nightmare of a customer.
Yeah, he told me that story and I said, that fits exactly right. And the thing he didn't say was, his gut feeling initially was, no. And like, sounds like you probably should have went with that. And so, and it's something you just learn, you know, and to be able to pick that kind of stuff. But also help your people write it down so they can recognize that too, or talk to them about it, you know, or something like that. We're going to come back to the personalities one more time. I like to throw these in here. because we all have punch list items and everybody likes to punch me sometimes. So I threw this in here because when I talk to people that aren't sign people, I show them things so that they turn into people at 5 a.m. taking pictures of signs. So I was walking through the mall and I saw this sign. Does anybody pick it up already? Yeah. I'm like, what the heck? What are we doing? You know, there's a Starbucks in Vegas that has this at the Pyramid. At Luxor, and I'm like, that's a national account. Somebody didn't do their job right. So I'm always like watching for that on the inside, and then I always ask people what they use to cover those holes up after they go. Some people are using like little metal tins. That's what we use, little metal tins over them. I've seen some people using scouring pads, black scouring pads. They go over it so it's water out, and you overproof them when we use them one time. But just something to think about, you know, as you're wandering and looking at signs in the mall. All right? Now we're switching to the smaller sign companies, you know, the 1 to 10, and this is what they come back with. And trust me, I hear this from my brother on a weekly basis. All right? Slow cash flow. I want you to, this is a U.S. Department of Agriculture charge on the value of $1 over time. All right, they put this together for farmers, but I want you to think about those people that are waiting to pay you after 90 days or 120 days. Are you accounting for that money when you charge? I would. You know, and share that with them if they have a problem with it. There's nothing wrong with sharing that with them. You know, but again, that's easy to find. But slow cash flow, late payments, unclear billing steps, no deposits. Chasing money, crazy documentation and photos. That probably sounds familiar to all you all. I'm going to tell you about one course that's at Expo here in about a month. We've done this course for a couple of years. It's working with national sign companies. And we usually have almost 150 people in there. It's a great little course. So I was like, this time let's do it different. Now it's working with local sign companies. And the two people that are on the stage are from local sign companies. And they're really raising the bar of partnering with these national sign companies and raising the expectation levels of everybody here in the group to truly be partners with these customers and these national accounts. So if you come into Expo, that'd be a good one to sit in on. All right. Plus, one of the guys, he's from Colorado. He is extremely passionate. I'm going to have to probably sit in there and wave him down to slow down and calm down. But it'd be a good one. So financial and payment risks. All right? Scheduling and timeline problems, last-minute installs. You know, I was talking to a gentleman the other day. He took on 2 hospital rebranding projects from 2 different national sign companies. And I said, was one of them better to work for than the other? Because I don't mess around. I'm going straight to it. And he said, oh, 100%. I can't tell you that. But I don't even know if I remember which one it was. But he had 8 crews that he was trying to schedule. So can you imagine? I know you can imagine. You've got them all booked out, and somebody calls, and now what's that crew going to do? You know, what are they going to do for that day? It's not like you got another line install lined up. Maybe you do. But so that was a big thing. Shifting dates, rushed planning, unrealistic timelines, national driven delays. Again, all coming from local. I think that is a little AI video. The guy installing the sign just kind of looked grumpy, so I figured he'd fit. All right. Survey site, they too had survey problems. Their survey problems were different than the Nationals, though. They didn't want other people doing surveys, as Mateus alluded to. Another sign company doing a survey for the sign that I'm going to be able to be responsible for. You know, they were all about that. Getting sent packets full of survey requests. Here, fill this whole packet out. You know, it's like, you know, you want me to do a survey for $250 for a big packet of information? You know, push back. You know, push back. PM's unsure technically. I was that PM back in 2001. I still remember to this day asking the tech to change the bulb out in the neon sign. Still remember it. His name's Rod Minna. He's from Chicago, and I can tell you what I'm talking to. All right? But, which is the reason I'm saying it here, because I was going to write that. You know, we want to try to give them information. So, products made elsewhere, install team unprepared. All right, that was a little shot at themselves. They were like, we can do a better job of preparing our installers. How many of you all, if you're doing an install for somebody else, just a rhetorical question, actually force a conference call with that person you're doing the install for? Good. I think you should force it. Force the partnership. Say, we want to have a call with you and the GC 2 weeks before the install. And bug the hell out of them until it happens. All right? You have to train them. You know, just please do that. Permitting and local code challenges. Wait till you see this video. It makes me laugh every time. All right? If you've seen it, it came out a long time ago, but I still play it. If you're trying to learn the code, so funny. We had a lot of time, good time with that back in the day, talking about it, but long permit, underestimated timelines, code, it's just code confusion. It's crazy. I mean, think about it. I'm going to show you some facts later on that. But one of the problems that was very vocal was permit expediters. There's some companies that do have a little bit of an issue with the permit expediter pulling the permit for me. And I get that. All right, and I think you need to make that known. You know? And maybe that's a risk you don't want to take and you decide not to take the project because of that. I don't know, but it's just something to think about. Some sign companies don't have internal permit people, so that's what they're working on. So I would encourage you to push back on that. Communication and authority gaps. Sometimes it takes project managers a long time to get back with a national project manager to get back with you. You know, you have people standing there on site waiting for something to do. You know, mixed messages, unclear instructions, slow feedback, and no real-time updates. Don't you like this 20-foot McDonald's sign? It's in the county I live in, and I took drone pictures of it and everything. It's 20 foot tall. You can't even see it to turn. So I don't know why they put it there. I mean, I didn't put it where you put, even from the exit. I was told their logic was as you're driving, you can see it under the exit. And I'm like, no, you can't. You can't even see it when you're getting off the exit and sitting on top. It's so little, but I don't know. Anyway, so there was obviously some kind of mixed messages or some miscommunication there. Because when I asked the county about it that I live in, they were very defensive. Like, we did not make them put that sign that way. And I was like, okay, I was just curious, you know. So I don't know what happened. But here's the personalities. The feet dryer, somebody who takes a long time to decide. Think about it. I know you know somebody that doesn't want to meet, doesn't want to talk, and definitely, as Bill said, doesn't want to talk on the phone. The ghoster. They leave. All right? The unexpected request for an RFQ. I was telling Mateus this earlier. That happens at the big one. I told you about Bath and Body Works. They bid us out at one point, and one of our partners that we work with a lot forwarded us and said, hey, just wanted you to know we're not going to, that's a partnership, by the way. But he goes, we're not going to bid on this, but we wanted you to know. And then I was telling Mateus, they even half-assed it. If you give the PDF and you move the block where our title block was, there's our logo sitting right there. You know, they didn't even try to make it hide it. It was just like a white block over it, you know, on the PDF. But, and the all quote no buy. Somebody will just quote you all the time just to have a number and put next to the one that they're actually going to use. All right? Again, those are risks. If you've got somebody doing that, quit playing the game. You know? And you'll pick all that up. Here's my punch list item number 2. I am all about the centers of letters. I will pick apart a monument sign or a channel letters, missing letter B's are falling off. Hell, that O on chocolate, if it falls off, it's sharp. I know because Rob was made that way. All right? It's sharp. It'll hurt somebody. I called them soon after to come fix it. But I like the way, especially the shop where the centers are 2 different colors. So obviously it's falling off and they've replaced it. So again, I share all this with kids and people that don't work at signs, hoping they go and turn into sign people and start noticing things. I'm just trying to get word out, you know? So think about those kind of things. Now I'm kind of talking about on the sales side of things. What is something that sales could do to help with risk? Look at that install. You know why they did that, Tom? I know why because we used to have this project manager where I work where, you know, we had the letters already pre-wired, so basically you drill holes and put the letters through it and put a nut on the back for each of those things. Well, she always wanted to send them out real long because I didn't want to have to worry about the wall. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not the one flinging that nut on the end, on the back side of the wall where it's hotter than hell and you got no room to move, and all you're doing is, for Bath and Body Works, 3 each letter, you do the math there, and you're just sitting there spinning a nut. So, and that was this installer's answer to that. I am not putting these nuts on, I'm just going to bend it up. The letters aren't going to fall, but they're going to be wobbly and it's not good. Alright, but custom install equipment, I put that on there because we were doing something for Under Armour one time out on the West Coast somewhere, and we were working on a sign somebody else built, and it was a raceway sign, and they said it's been off for 10 years. Once we finally got there, it was off for 10 years because the raceway was sealed perfectly at the bottom. But at the top, it was literally 6 inches deep in water. And I'm like, that's why it wasn't working. But what was interesting is because they thought it would be a quick fix, so they're like, you can get this done for $500. When we get there, there's a canopy in the middle and an awning coming off of the storefront, so we had to get some articulating spider lift, which is always cool to say, and then go up in there, and it costs a lot of money. And they're like, why is this costing so much? I had to send them the picture of the lift, and then send them the picture of all that water. And they finally understood, all right? But knowing how to get them that information. So height challenges, crowded entry areas, I shared that a little bit with doing the concrete work when you're trying to install a sign. For those of you that do work all over the country or wherever, this is a great little map to have handy, just sitting there next to your desk or something. It's an engineering map where the wind's the worst and all different kinds of things. But location and placement uncertainty, sign location questions, small signable area, tricky materials, beams and obstructions, and odd building shapes. Right? All were legit. I know Rose, they just installed a set of letters on a fully 3D printed altered state in Columbus. Y'all seen that one? Or anybody seen that one? It's actually a fully printed 3D store of altered state in Columbus, and Rose had put a sign on it. So think about that. It wasn't a 3D printed sign, obviously. But just think about different things. Again, those are risks, and you really need to look at where you're going and just decide if you want to take it. Traffic and safety hazards. That is me underneath that sign. My wife, I forced her to take pictures of me. It's weird. All right, look how big that sign is. I'm like, something's happening here. That is a huge sign, and literally it's 6 foot to the bottom of it. But heavy foot traffic, busy cars, need traffic control, closing sidewalks or streets, and limited areas to work. All right, so all of those are things that we need to harness early. Surface and structural concerns. Anybody ever installed a sign on one of these? Oh my gosh, talk about meticulous. And I'm pretty sure they were meticulous. I don't know who did it, but it's not easy. How could you get it even when it stood off the wall 1 inch with uneven stones? I mean, but you need to consider that. I can almost bet you that they didn't price that install out. I can almost bet you they didn't. All right? Fragile cladding, unknown structures, hard to mount surfaces, risk of damage. All of those things you kind of have to take in when you're trying to get the job. Blocking and electrical power unknowns. That's in Nashville. No power, unclear conduit, long power runs, blocked electric, must add wiring. I was talking to a gentleman last week and he said that literally he was at this huge factory and the power for the sign was all the way on the other side. And I'm like, what'd you do? He goes, I almost had to beg for the electrician to put something closer so that I could actually power the sign. But it's sad. He was a sign company, you have to do that. So do that. Don't be the one that said, okay, we'll make that work. It's just going to start failing. And it's just start losing it. Blocking, you cannot stress blocking enough. I refused to put a Brooks Brothers sign up one time because there was no blocking there. They wanted me to put it in there, and the general contractor said no. When the customer called me, I said, here's what happened. I need blocking in there. You don't want your sign guy building your framing for your store. And as soon as I said it that way, next thing I know, general contractor put blocking up, I installed the blade sign, and we were done. the customer money. Because we had to come back out for another trip. So you want to be that partner to the customer. That GC, we actually ended up being pretty good buddies on that. We talk all the time. You know, he knew that when I would actually ask for something, I wasn't trying to be annoying. I was trying to make it go smoother for everybody. You know, so ask those questions. Here's my last one. It's really not a punch list item. Just a lot of people don't know what flex spaces are, so I always like to share them. I call it a punch list because a lot of people will see signs and flapping in the air real high, and most people don't have any idea what that is. So this is actually a sign comp video right here that they shared with me, and it's a couple of minutes, and it just real fast walks through the installation of a flex space on the wall and what it looks, and it kind of just tells the story pretty quickly. I put the QR code because that's on YouTube, and you can use that if you want to share it with anybody, or you can even share it with customers. Say, we're thinking about doing a sign like this, and why? You know, but it explains how it kind of goes about and the process involved with that. And again, that's a sign comp video. But it tells the story, and it looks pretty badass after it's done too. All right, a few more things. I don't even know what time it is. That is a picture of David Hickey, who's as a vice president of advocacy, and he's been saying stuff to me, and it's been the same thing, and I finally wanted to harness it. So here's what he said: signs might just be the most regulated product in America, and you're thinking, oh, you're just doing that because I'm at a sign place. No, think about it. Before you can even install a sign, you need a permit, you need permission. You're dealing with over, I said 2,000, 20,000 local jurisdictions across the country, and each has its own rule book. And let's not forget the property owners. Think about it. Your sign type, your size, your height, color, how far back it sits from the road, whether it lights up at all of it can be restricted depending on where you are. And guess who's responsible for deciding all that, for knowing all that? That's you. Add in the various permits, fees, license requirements, technical codes, and legal landmines, and you need to navigate, and you've got yourself quite the regulatory reins. So here's what he says: I can honestly can't think of anything else so common that faces this much red tape. Not prescription drugs, not cars, not guns. I didn't get home. I was like, we've got to put that on something, and it's true. And it's true. Use these guys. I put it on the wrong slide, but there was a couple who has used our advocacy team here. So I think there's been a couple that have used it unsuccessfully, which happens. All right. Do you mind to share yours? Real quick, I would love for you to share that if you don't mind.
No, we had a church reach out to us to do an EMC on their property. But the problem was their property that they wanted to put it on was a cemetery. And so they went in and got it rezoned with the city. Unbeknownst to me, when they got it rezoned, it was just one step up from residential. Now, who knew that cemeteries were residential?
Valid.
We went back to the city to find out if we could get it to commercial zoning. The problem is there's no building that's on the property itself. And so we went through, and I reached out to ISA to find out, what would be the outcome before we went out this whole big long road. And it basically, they said that there would be very little chance that we would be able to get this site, go back to the church, say, yeah, I'm giving back the money, which sucks.
Yeah.
But, I just told them that there is really no way that we could do an EMC for them on that property because
Yeah. I encourage you to use them if you have a question, or if maybe you have a difficult planning department or building department. These guys can reach out to them. James was a planner himself for 30 years. David Hickey is a lawyer. He was just at the Department of Labor speaking on the sign industry last week. I just try to share all that with you so you know what they get in and about. And Kenny was just at a variance meeting, and they recorded the video, and I sit there and watched him speak for 20 minutes and send him a video, and I go, that was a cool little talk. It was not, but I thought it was. but he was given the reading on the code and things like that. So these guys are real, and I encourage you to take advantage of them. Sign Manufacturing Day, I always mention this because it was just a great day. There's a little video playing here that we put together at Ruggles to kind of walk through what we did. If you're wanting to do that, I will share our script with you. I will share everything we did with you. Because it's really just about getting those kids in there and telling them what the sign industry is all about. If you're looking for ways to engage your employees, they love talking to those kids. We would, based on if there was a designer that graduated from that school that was visiting, they would be the ones that would speak to the group. It wasn't me. But we get them involved. We invited politicians. That was the senator's assistant. That guy right there, that's the owner of Ruggles, and that's our U.S. representative. Again, ISA didn't tell me to do that. I was working at Ruggles. I just started inviting people because I wanted to make this a big deal. And we took them around and walked them through the shop and showed them everything. So if you don't make a manufacturer, take them to one of your partner shops that manufactures for you. If they're close by, for sure. Right? Get involved in Sign Manufacturing Day. Somewhere we're going to get the kids back into the business. All right? But I want you to look. You can see who's talking, painting. It was the guys that did it every day. And they love talking about it. I'm telling you, that's the greatest industry. One of the greatest industries is because you walk around and you see the stuff you made every day. When you work at a car factory, you don't know where that car's going to go. But you make a sign that goes 2 blocks down, you're driving by it every day. That's something to be proud of. Right? So the same thing goes true for there. I encourage you to be a part of that. It usually happens the first weekend of October because it goes along with National Association of Manufacturers. But we did ours in the spring because we were always too busy in the fall. So you don't have to do it in the fall. Do it whenever you want. When it fits your schedule. And we have resources on our website that can help you there too. But again, we had people welding. Some of them, it was always cool, the ones that the kids that are taking welding in a tech school or something, because as soon as they could volunteer, they were all over it. And even to this day, my brother from Ruggles, he called me and goes, we just hired a designer and became a sign manufacturing day. So we're starting to see the positives for that. This will take you right to our learning hub, and it shows you all of our online courses that are available for you. It's really easy to navigate. I put this on here. I encourage you to scan it just so you can take a look at it. And down the left-hand side are the categories, project management, sales, whatever. Take a look at them. We're in the process of refreshing those 90. When I say we, that means me. All right? I've been here 3 years, and I'm about 30 of them through. So if you see one that says refreshed on there, that's a refreshed one. If you see one that's new, we have some new ones too. One's actually on risk. All right, that just happened. And one's on adhesives. We've got several ones on permits. We're about ready to finish one up on variances. We're trying to lay the groundwork of all this foundational learning so we can put them in learning paths and share them with you all. And again, it's all about onboarding these people. We'll get real close to making this happen for you. So, new classes. We have 5 installation classes that are based on safety. And they're all 5 in Spanish as well. All right? So that's happening. And then custom learning journeys for all employees. I just finished a general onboarding learning path that has 14 classes embedded in it. And in that we give, it's actually on right now if you look at it, it gives you suggested implementation of that. 2 courses a week with some job shadowing, suggestions and things like that. So if you're looking for ways of onboarding, I encourage you to take a look at that. QR code means death today. Whatever. This is your all Signworld website that's on our ISA website. On that website is a code for a free trade show pass to come to our expo here in April. Alright? So hope you get a hold of that. If you haven't scanned it all, I'll tell you a little bit more about the expo. But it also gives you little links to things that we've done custom for you. The resource that we're going to create this afternoon, I'm going to make sure it lands right there for you all to see. Yep, let's see if people scanning. You good? Okay. So here's our expo. It's in Orlando. It's the first week of April. All right. It's 8th through the 10th. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There's some pre-course workshops on that Tuesday. one of which is a brand new Daktronics electronic digital display certification that they're giving away. Not giving away yet, paid for it, but you get the certification. All right, but it's the first time they're doing it. All right, so they're wanting to offer it at ISA. So there is loads of courses here. You're going to make me talk about them just for a second. We had a young man that wanted to, had 3 ideas for courses. He's right outside of Orlando. So I started talking to him about gym last year. And he goes, here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about troubleshooting with project managers for installation on site. I'm like, whoa, I'm in, you know? And then the next one was how to do a proper survey and get all the information you need the first time. I said, I'm in, you know? And then I forget what the other one was everybody was working with fabricators and project managers. And I'm like, I said, Joey, you just probably nailed about everything. You just want to do them all? But he submitted them. We went through this whole process. We take all these requests for proposals and we send them through committees. 100 people vote on them. And the top 30 are the ones that get to go. All 3 hits the top 30. For sure. I mean, I said them, and everybody's sitting there shaking their heads. But those are the kind of things, and it's our people giving these, you know, sign people that are delivering these courses. So ask them questions. We've got loads, the AI power with Bill's daughter is great. She's working with a young lady that has a small signorama, and they have implemented AI on the front end to ask a lot of these questions. It's a great little course. I can literally, there's 30 of them, and I want to read them all to you. Project management, we've got 6 or 7 project management ones delivered by project managers. You know, and I'm going to carry this around because it's safe. So if you ever want to see it, it's on our website as well. If you click there, it'll take you to that. All right? And this is me being done. And I would love feedback for this session. Good, bad, different, more information. Please fill it out. I promise I did read it. I will read them tonight. I may even read them this afternoon. I don't know. But please be honest. It could be better, and how it could be better, I'll take it. All right? I would love your feedback there. I encourage you to come to the 3:15 session and participate in the Signworld Risk Ready resource that we're building. You all are going to build it. I'm just going to be the typer. All right? So I want you all to give me all this stuff that we're going to put on this, and that way when we share it, it's yours. Okay? And that starts at 3:15 and 4, I think it's room 4. All right? So I'm done. I appreciate you all letting me come up here and ramble a little bit. And Bill, thank you for participating. And thank you for serving.